Hello, Gabriel Blake. Where are we?
We are at Hawaii West in North Beach in San Francisco, the fourth bar that we've attempted today. Assuming the Chinatown bars would be empty, they were not.
Certainly they were not. They were surprisingly busy. I don't know if actually just the financial district flock were just flying to Chinatown.
But they were all too loud.
Yeah, no, that's true. So hopefully this is not going to be like too loud, only on TV in the background. Let's see how it goes. So what movie are we going to be talking about today?
Débattre mon cœur s'est arrêté.
I was thinking about like being that pretentious asshole that's going to be like saying the title in French, but it's like, no, I'm not.
Fine, it was The Beat My Heart Skipped, starring Romain Duris.
Yeah. So the funny thing is like the title, I don't think that it was like properly translated into English, because if you saw the translation or the original title actually means like from beating my heart stop.
Yeah, so I actually read a bit about this film. And,
okay.
Apparently it's a close translation to the meaning of the title, which basically refers to the effect that music can have on your heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So probably not an accurate translation, but it makes sense in English at least.
Yeah, no, I like that at this point you really like make me feel a bit dumb about not having read about it.
Well, let me preface this by saying for years I named this as my favorite movie of all time. So I know a lot about this movie.
So this is only the 5th episode. I had a feeling that at least for 3 out of these movies you actually named one of your favorite movies, because with Little Children it was one of your favorite movies.
And what year was Little Children?
2003, I think.
So it was Little Children until 2005 when this film came out.
Okay.
And then it was The Seventh Seal.
Okay, yeah, forever and ever. It's like from this point on. Before that, it was Magnolia from 1998.
When I was 18, it was Magnolia.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to apologize for that. P.T. Anderson is amazing.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
You like my jungle juice, huh?
Very much, thank you. It was a cameo by a bartender.
Yeah.
All night long. That's okay.
We will.
So, this is my choice.
It was your choice, so I have to start talking about it. So, I had to say that I liked it, but part of me, what?
But
there is a small but. I had the feeling that it's like we were like pretty lucky with the last. Well, lucky. We're like pretty, I don't know, well educated. I don't know exactly how to say this about like the choices that we made at this point in the 4 previous weeks. They were so good that I had the feeling that this is like just a small step below. But let me just say exactly why. I love like the kind of the dichotomy or the kind of contrast between like the music, the piano playing of what is the name of the actor? Do you know it?
Romain Duris.
Romain Duris is like he's amazing. He's incredible.
Really
he actually just carries the whole movie by himself, and I feel like the dichotomy or the kind of contrast between him and the Chinese woman is amazing. It's like really good. How he actually, I was reading that he actually learned how to play piano. Just for this, just for the role, it's okay. He actually focused on just playing the piece that he was going to be like just trying over and over. From that perspective, I thought that it was good. There were some scenes that I felt like they didn't live up completely up to the expectations. Maybe it's because I'm from Europe, and I had a feeling that that kind of mug or thug, not mug, is that thug about in real estate is I don't think that real estate is so intense for actually having someone like this working there. I don't know if in Paris that's how it works, but I felt like all the violence scenes, they were like a bit too forced.
Yeah, so there's an aspect to the movie that this is kind of an unbelievable story.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't bother me particularly.
No, I mean, I think that it's fair. I think that it actually just helps out to make the point of what you're trying to make about like the contrast between like the high violence life that he lives, and just lying and just getting away with extremely violent behavior, and at the same time the softness and the beauty of all the piano playing that he does. How he actually connects with the life that he could have had if his mother didn't die, because it almost feels like when the mother died, is that he actually had to choose between do I want to keep progressing as a piano player, or do I want to just embrace the violence life that my father had? And he actually just go with the violence life. From the perspective that this is easier. I don't have to just try anything. I can just go through this. And then when he started just reconnecting with with the career that the mother had is when he actually just comes out a bit more like, oh, I love this beauty. This beauty is actually just calming me a bit down, but it's not completely. And I had a feeling that the last couple of scenes when he actually meets the Russian guy again on the street.
Miskov? Minchkov. I don't remember. But
Yeah, it starts with M and ends up with V. That probably is like every single Russian name. So when he actually sees him again, I had a feeling that there is this kind of internal struggle about, like, okay, I actually had dedicated myself to the piano. It's true that he's no longer a piano player, that he's basically a manager for his wife, the Chinese girl. But at the same time, I had a feeling that he has this kind of interest. Should I do this? Should I actually just embrace back my violin life? And from that perspective, I really like how the film ends. That is, I cannot leave that behind. That's my nature. That is actually my nature. It's not the beauty of the piano player and, the softness. From this, it's a bit more like the violence is actually what defines me.
So you said a lot of interesting things, and I saw those things slightly differently. I saw a story of fathers and sons, and also the dual nature of man, like the ugly side and the beautiful side.
Yeah.
And, for instance, at the end, when he attacks the Russian mobster, he can't kill him, even though he would have before.
Yeah.
And it's because he was getting fulfilled in these other parts of his life, and this was the last thing that he had to wrap up before he joined. It was metaphorical, but his wife in concert, or his girlfriend in concert, and said, okay, I finished this is the life I'm embracing.
Sure, but at the same time, he didn't actually shoot him, but he actually following him, and he attacked him. So it's like he's not leaving that completely behind. It's like it's true that there is this kind of moral dilemma at the end when he has the gun to his face and he's like, okay, I can't shoot him. It's like, I'm not going to do it. I think that I'm better than this. But at the same time, I got to this point. It's like I haven't left everything behind. It's like I don't want to just make a step even further because he had never killed anyone up to this point.
Yeah, but nobody had killed his dad up until that point.
True, that's true. But like even he doesn't actually want to take his revenge. It's that maybe there is a bit more of a, I don't know, like uplifting feeling at the end from the perspective that he doesn't want to embrace revenge fully, but he still embraced it.
Yeah, he definitely did in that scene, but my interpretation was that he wrapped this one piece up of his father's terrible legacy, and his dad was a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah.
My God.
But he was also a piece of shit.
He was, but he was trying to follow in his father's footsteps, and something you said earlier, I don't think that he decided to follow his dad because it was easier. I got the impression that his mother's death was hugely traumatic, and he wasn't able to play the piano. You see that when he listens to the recording of her, it's something that he's...
Yeah, it's a hard time for him.
Yeah. So, overall, I think that movie is one of the best that we've watched together. I mean, this movie is incredible, and you and I agree about directors that we find interesting, and then at some point they quote-unquote evolve into, like, masters, but they become uninteresting. Like Steve McQueen, right? We find Hunger, we find... What was the Michael Fassbender movie?
Hunger?
No. Yeah, the second one, Shame.
Yeah.
We find those super interesting, and then critically, it was 12 Years a Slave that people like, and we find it boring.
Yeah.
I actually found this to be the last Jacques Audiard film that was interesting from an experimental phase.
So you didn't actually just find Rust and Bone interesting?
It was interesting, but I'm saying that, like, his masterpiece... What was his masterpiece? Un Prophète.
Sure, that everyone knows about. Yeah, no, that's true.
So he evolved into this quote-unquote master, but I think this is the last of his films to be really interesting. I saw Dupin here in San Francisco, and I thought, what is this? Like, what is he trying to comment? Rust and Bone, I think, was a lowest common denominator. How can we use...
Wait a second, Rust and Bone? Didn't we go to the cinema to watch that?
No, this was one of our...
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're right. Yeah. A prophet, yeah.
I never understood a prophet. I don't get it.
Yeah, no, me neither. But, okay, I actually think that this movie is good, but I just think that this is not at the level of the other movies that we have watched recently.
So,
I haven't.
Little Children was better.
Little Children was better than this.
What?
I'm sorry, man. I mean, I think that is like this is an interesting movie. I understand the dichotomy that it's trying to present. It's like I understand all the elements, but there is like something about it that is like it doesn't come to fruition for me. It's like I'm not saying that it's a failed experiment. It's not like Carell. You know, that is okay. I see all the elements. Look, no, this doesn't work, or it doesn't work on the way that you're expecting. But it's like for this movie, it's like I see everything, but it's like I think that maybe one of the parts that I didn't like is when they are when he's waking up in the middle of the night before the recital, you know, and they're asking him, oh, we need to go here, you know, we need to do this. And he's like, okay, let's go there, and they start like using this hyper-violence approach about like we're going to be like just destroying everything. And they start playing the Locomoco or whatever it's called.
Yeah, and they focus on his face.
Yeah, and they start like just doing that. That's the only, you know, like how do you say, like just cinematography effect that I seen. That is okay. This is like way too heavy-handed. I understand that he's like just going insane at that point about like what the fuck is going on. It's like I'm just done with this. Is that that's the point that he has sort of just come to a realization about all the shit that he has been doing, and at the same time just realizing about all the creative efforts that he's putting at the same time. So I felt that point was like way too heavy-handed, but I felt they could have been done in a bit more of a subtle way. They didn't. With everything else, felt like so hyper-realistic. Getting to that point and just doing that, I felt like, look, you don't need to go there. You don't need to look at the camera, you know, and say, like, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm trying to just make you realize about.
Yeah, the camera work was very. What is the opposite of subtle? Heavy-handed.
Yeah.
And I thought it worked for most of the film. There was a couple of times where I was like, okay, but overall, I thought it worked. And then there was something you just said I wanted to comment on. Oh, so when this movie came out, I was so hard for it. And if anybody's listening to this, it's very difficult to find a place to stream this unless you have a Spanish streaming service called Filmin.
Use Filmin. It's fucking amazing.
But it's essentially not here in the American markets at this point. And it really wasn't then, although I did see it in theaters. And I was so obsessed with the score, which is incredible. They mix original music with, what would you call contemporary music?
Yeah.
And classical.
Yeah.
I had completely forgotten that I had imported this soundtrack from France and listened to the 2 CD special for years, and so I was like intimately familiar with every piece of music in it.
Look, that's good. I mean, I'm not saying that it's a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying that it's like it has like really good elements to it, but they are like way too heavy-handed. It's like so with some movies you can actually see it's like these are all the elements that they're using. This is all the things that they make you that are trying to make you feel. Is that the good movies? Is that they can actually just bypass that? Is that I'm going to be using all these formulas, but at the same time you're not going to be like just paying too much attention to it. It's like in this movie I had a feeling that it's easier to actually see all the smoke and mirrors for just getting to the specific feeling that they want to just achieve on you. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I mean, that actually just means that the director is really, really good about like what he's trying to express. But I just feel like in other movies, like in spring, summer, fall, winter, and spring, is that they were a bit more better used. They were not so heavy-handed as this.
So I agree, you can't compare it to spring, summer, fall, winter, and spring. The worst movie you've ever picked just because of the title.
The title is terrible, yeah.
I think that's in a different league.
Yeah.
But I feel like for French modern cinema, this was just stellar. It was a stellar movie.
Challenge accepted. I'm going to be just looking for another really good movie. So, do you remember like that movie that we watched from the actress of Rust and Bone?
What
we
is
went
her
to the
name?
cinema. I don't remember
She's
her,
from
but
a
she was
terrible
nominated.
Christopher Nolan film too.
Oh my god, yeah.
Inception?
Yeah, she was from Inception, but she was nominated for that role, the one that she's going to be
The
like
diving
fired.
bell and the butterfly?
No. I was talking about like the one that she's going to get fired.
Oh Jesus, that movie was so bad.
But I love that movie, and I think
You
that's...
did?
I
You
did.
did not love it when we watched it.
I didn't?
I don't think so.
I thought that it was like a really good movie. I mean, it was, but the problem is like it's extremely hyper-realistic. It doesn't try to be like just a bit more metaphorical as this movie.
Yeah, for instance, I don't think that movie used any music, and this was very like, hey, let's focus on the emotions of the music. But I think this film did an excellent job of focusing on emotion, appealing to emotions and appealing to intellect.
No.
And it made me thought a lot about my relationship with my father. I hope he doesn't listen to this.
I don't think so.
But that scene where he's sitting in the restaurant across from his dad, and his dad's being a total dick, but you can see in Romain Duris' face that he's like completely disappointed in the decline of his dad, but also loves him unconditionally.
Yeah. And he's going to be like doing stuff that he doesn't want to do just for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say that the violent scenes are pretty well shot. They're like pretty raw, pretty like, holy shit, what is happening here, you know?
Yeah, I was super disturbed by him putting the gun in the Russian mobster's mouth. Like, that was too realistic. I was like, this should be more like John Wick, so I can feel okay about this.
So having like a puppy just yapping. So
Marion Cotillard, that's who we're talking about.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I don't remember liking that movie at all. It was
like
so
it.
boring.
But it's like, I had the feeling that it's like, this is how a hyper-realistic movie has to be.
Yes, that was hyper-realistic. I don't think that the Beat My Heart skip was trying to be realistic.
Half of it was, you know, the camera work, half of it was trying to be hyper-realistic.
Yeah, but that's
the
what
other
I'm
half
saying
is like...
half was appealing to our emotions and half was appealing to our intellect. That's what it was doing. It was showing like the ugly side of humanity and the beautiful side of humanity. And
yeah, but the ugly side is something that he was using hyper-realistic.
2 days, one night.
Yeah.
That is a modern one we discussed.
But I think that we went to the cinema together to watch that one. I watched it at the opera, and I'm pretty sure that you were with me. And we don't have a score. We don't have that score there.
Yeah.
Oh, he was in Anchorman too. Good. So I think that she's talented. She's a talented actress, and I think that that's a good French cinema that it tries to be hyper-realistic, but it's something that also happened in Spanish cinema, that you were not looking into the cinema that it was trying to copy American blockbusters. What you will find, it was a bit more towards hyper-realism or stupid comedies, one or two. And hyper-realist movies is that they never had like music or anything. Everything was like what is on the screen. And this movie does that for half of the time, and then some other times he overuses it from the metaphorical perspective. So for me, it's like, I understand what you say about like just having this kind of dichotomy into just appealing our intellects and appealing our emotions, but for me it doesn't click completely. I'm not saying that it's a bad movie. I think that it's a really good movie, but it's like it doesn't click completely.
But don't you think the metaphor of like him experiencing real life, which is terrible and ugly, and he has to do awful things, regardless if you think the plot is realistic or not, the fact that the music was saving him, that's a nice metaphor.
But at the same time, he was still an asshole. It's like, that's something we haven't discussed yet, but it's like, I tried to look for the transcript. I almost like just watched the movie again, just trying to just transcribe with my phone about the Chinese dialogue the woman is saying when she actually just burst into like just fucking shut up. Yeah, that probably gonna just fuck up. It's like I don't know what you're saying. It's like, what are you expecting out of me? It's like I don't know exactly what she says. Like I would love to understand that, but it's like I understand that is like the point of the movie is like he doesn't understand what the teacher is saying to him.
You seem like the sort of person that would think you would find value in Lost in Translation if you understood what Bill Murray whispered to Scarlett Johansson.
No, I don't think that will actually help, because that's actually hidden not from the perspective of just Lost in Translation. It's just Lost in I'm an asshole director. But in this perspective, it's a bit more... Sure, wait a second, we can discuss Lost in Translation any other day. But in this perspective, it's a bit more like, look, the guy, we are not going to be like putting it on the subtitles because you don't know. The guy doesn't know what that woman is telling to him.
Which is a good thing.
It's a good thing because like you actually feel like the guy is like, look, he's being an asshole and she's actually replying. She's like just fed up with this behavior.
But it's like Reservoir Dogs. You don't see the ear cut off, and it's more valuable to know that you don't see it.
But you see the ear at the end.
You see the what?
You see the ear.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to... You understand ultimately where they arrived, but you don't need to know the details.
Sure, but in this case, that you don't know exactly how she explodes. You don't know exactly how she's feeling. You don't know exactly what is her trip. You understand what is his trip.
You know exactly what she's feeling. You can see her performance.
In case you didn't notice.
You really don't think you had an idea of what she was emoting at the time? That's absurd.
I mean, I had a feeling that she's confused too. I mean, I think that she's looking at him as like, as a good project. She's just taking like, like a bear with his broken wing kind of thing. Is that she's just taking him and I'm like, okay, I'm like way more talented than you and you want to be a concertist? He's like, sure, let's see what happens.
But ultimately he gets to her approval. He gets to the point where she's like,
he gets
his
approval, but it's like, that's not what is meant in life for him. that's what is meant in life for her.
I disagree. That is what is meant in life for him. And he was just busying himself with all the shitty stuff in life that stopped him from doing that.
Sure, but he doesn't end up as a concertist. He ends up as a manager for her.
Yeah, but you also saw him at the very end performing on that stage, and he's incredible.
I mean, he's amazing, but at the same time, he's not at the level that she is. He will never be at that level.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like it's a bit more of, and I that's the part I feel, okay, what is the meaning when he's attacking the present guy? It's like it's a bit more like just, like, okay, I cannot leave that life completely behind because I'm not good enough for the life that I wanted to have as a concertist player.
But that's just what he thinks he wants. It's not necessarily what he wants. What he needed was to get rid of his shitty dad, who's an awful, terrible person, and find the things that uplift him. And I don't want to give anyone the impression this is an uplifting film. It's not like a feel-good movie. But there is this sort of what heals us as humans, and he found the things that heals him.
But he never actually, I mean, he embraces for a while, but he never leaves behind the life that he used to have.
He does leave it behind.
No, he actually attacks the Russian guy at the end.
But as I said, and we disagree on this, I feel like that's him just wrapping up the very last part of his old life. His dad is dead. He doesn't have the bad influences. He clearly changed from being a broker, a real estate broker that was doing shitty illegal things. They moved to 2 years later. He's dressed super well. He's at his...
Sure, he can play piano too, yeah.
And I think that was the point. I mean, the idea that's explored is what it means to be human.
That's funny because this is the point that we disagree upon. Is that for you this is a redeeming movie?
I don't think he's redeemed. I think he became a better human. Whether that means redemption or not, I don't know.
I think that is the partial redemption. It's like, for me, this is not a redeeming film. It's a bit more like that when you do like terrible stuff, when you actually embrace that terrible part of yourself, you're never going to be like leaving it behind. It's that you can just try to fool yourself, but that's never going to be like going away. And that's the reason why he sees that guy.
That's so pessimistic. When we just had a conversation about how you like to see the best in people, and I like to see the worst in people.
But not in movies. Not in movies when they do that. I mean, come on, it's like he actually started like just kicking him out. It's like he's about to just shoot him in the face. It's true that he doesn't
do it.
He doesn't do it, but he gets to the point of doing that. It's like, why, instead of actually just seeing him, it's like, okay, why do I need to engage with this guy?
He murdered his father. It's
what
not
is
like
revenge is going to be like giving him
but
at that
it's
point.
not like he was kicking poor people out of their apartments. That guy murdered his dad, and he still had self-control and was like, no, I'm not going to murder you.
So
I'm going to put down the gun, and I'm going to sit and watch my wife.
Is the self-control when he actually puts down the gun, or he started like just hitting him with the suitcase?
I think it was when he started to rip his testicles away from his
That's
body.
true, is at that point, there is not too much self-control at that point,
Then I was like, well,
so it's like
some Russians deserve that.
Probably most Russians. Please, if you're from Russia, this is not personal, don't take it. But from that perspective, I just feel that he didn't leave behind completely the people, the person that he used to be. Is that he's still that person in the background.
You don't think? Honest to God, I mean, think about it. He had the chance to kill his father's killer, and his father's death devastated him. And he stopped himself, and he put down the gun, and he put his shirt on, and he went to watch his wife.
But come on, he actually does that after just kicking his ass out. And probably what is going to happen is that this guy is going to be like hunting him down and just killing him too, eventually.
Well, could be, but I see it as a sign that he valued his new life more, and he was like, this isn't who I am anymore. So yeah, he was, I guess you could say, tempted, but he stopped himself.
No.
And you know that the guy 2 years before that, flash forward, would have murdered him.
Yeah, probably. Before the locomotion. Before the locomotion is seen.
Well, sure.
Honestly, I'm not saying that it's a bad movie. I just had the feeling that for me it's a bit more of a pessimistic movie. It doesn't end up in a
How
high
can we
pitch.
disagree so much when I'm the pessimistic one?
I know, but for me it doesn't end up in a high pitch. It's that when he's actually just seeing the performance of his wife, girlfriend, whatever, and he's just caressing, almost like trying to hide all the blood that he has and all the bruises that he has. It's like he's ashamed about what he did, but it's like at the same time he's part of who he is.
Oh, I don't think he's ashamed. What I think is he's chosen a new life. He has baggage, but he's improving himself. And that's super dark, and the things he did were super dark, and there's certainly always pieces of his past that will follow him, but he's chosen a completely different journey than he did 2 years ago.
that would be fair if he didn't attack the Russian guy. I would believe you. If he actually, for example, saw the Russian guy, he was like just calling the police or just moving away from it, I would believe it. But he still has that rage built up into him.
But wait, tell me if somebody's an alcoholic, maybe not an alcoholic, but they have an alcohol dependency.
Sure.
And at some point they realize, this isn't good for me, I'm going to stop. And they stop for 2 years. And then one night they have a relapse, but then they continue on not drinking. Are you going to say that person is always going to have an alcohol dependency and that's not any sort of improvement?
So what I usually say is that if you ever smoke, if you were ever a smoker, like regularly, from this point on, it doesn't matter how many years you spend without smoking, you're always going to be an ex-smoker. From that point on, so that person is that is still going to have like a problem, like a latent problem. That's the reason why people are still like just going.
This is a terrible analogy.
Well, but what I'm saying is that you go to AA, is that you are going to keep going to AA probably for years and years. You're going to be like just exchanging the token, and you're going to say like, hey, I'm actually just clean for 20 years. It's not about like, well, I've been clean for 20 years, but I got really, really drunk that night.
All right, fine, I get it. You're right.
I mean, I'm just saying that like this guy.
No, you're right.
My,
my metaphor backfires.
I mean, what I'm saying is that this guy actually just embraced violence after the death of the mother. Is that he's always going to have that problem. It doesn't end up in a positive note. Is that just telling you like he's always going to be that person.
But it did end up. It ended up in a happy Oreo. He picked up. He picked up his wife and was super loving, and he was planning
I think he actually just got so much scrotum.
And then he went to the concert, he cleaned himself up, and so yeah, he has demons, but he's choosing a lifestyle now that is completely different.
But come on, you cannot tell me that when 30 minutes ago, 10 minutes before the last scene, he's actually just grabbing someone's scrotum and just with a gun to his face.
I told you it's an Oreo. Good, bad, good.
Yeah, but the problem is that I don't think that it's actually I think there is a stack sandwich. Is that there may be another layer afterwards of violence. Is that sure, probably you want to think that it's going to end up with a bread layer on top of it, but it may actually just end up with meat on top of it.
Well, I'm fascinated that we can disagree so much about what a movie means. Typically, we at least agree on what the meaning of the movie is, not whether it's good or bad.
Well, no. We understand about like the dichotomy between just beauty and violence. We agree on that.
Well, yes, that's like
the bare bones.
Lowest common denominator of this film.
Yeah.
But what the director had to say, I don't think we've ever disagreed so much.
No, I'm sorry, man. But it's like for me,
seal.
we're never going to be watching that. I'm sorry, man. But it's like on this, I just felt like I don't think that this ends up in a positive point.
So what did you? Oh, go ahead.
Should we score it? Because I had a feeling that we're not going to be like getting to
Before we
agreements.
do that, I just want to know what you think generally about Jacques Audiard's other films, and I think this is it the first time that we've scored two of the same director's films? I think it is, right?
No, I don't think so. There has to be another one, another director.
I mean, if you were watching Ingmar Bergman, we would have scored like
all
25 of them at this point.
No, you may be right.
But what did you think about his other films? So we watched Rust and Bone together. Did you watch A Prophet?
I watched it a long time ago. I don't remember it. I mean, I remember like very
pieces. A book that my sister recommended me, The Brothers Sisters.
I saw that one, but that's more recent than the Rust and Bone. I didn't watch that one.
I read half the book and didn't watch it.
Rust and Bone, I think that it was like just a 6.5 or 7. Is that this for me is going to be a 7.5. It's like I think that it's a good movie, honestly. I think that it's a movie that is like really good, but it's like just giving the last movies that we have been watching. I mean, for some of them that you were giving a 9, I was giving an 8. I think that this is a step behind.
Do you remember what I gave Spring, Summer, Fall?
I think it was a 9.
I think I gave it a 9.5.
No way.
But regardless, so I think about that movie for relativity purposes. I think I would give The Beat My Heart Skipped an 8.5.
8.5?
I was actually really proud that I picked this movie 15, 20 years ago as my favorite movie, and it's super held up.
No, it's a good movie. It's a good movie, and besides that, it's like I appreciate it. For example, for a Kinky Dude movie last week that I'm not going to be like saying the whole title, is that there is like a lot of effort put into it, like a lot of production effort for putting into this, for just making it the movie that it is.
But I do agree that the movie we watched last week is in a completely different league. It's just not.
It's like from an artistic perspective, I think that movie is incredible. It's incredible. Is that this movie, I think that from an artistic perspective, is that it's good, but it doesn't get to that, I don't know, like high level or elevated level that I think that Kinky Dude's movie was.
All right, that's fair. I mean, if we think about the 1 to 10 scale, a 5 is perfectly mediocre. It's not good or bad. So
No.
the fact that you gave it a 7.5, I'm happy.
Were you going to be negotiating about it or what?
No. I'm just saying, let's put in context what that score
Yeah,
means.
yeah,
Do you
yeah.
think it's a pretty good movie?
I think that it's a pretty good movie, and I think that I'm going to be remembering most of it, of this movie. A little like the tone about like what is this movie about, but I was going to be remembering that the guy was an asshole from the beginning to the end.
He was not an asshole in the end. We will not discuss this.
Okay.
I just want you to say that I have been killing it with my recommendations lately.
Except this last one, yeah.
Europa, Little Children, The Be My Heart Scam.
Sure.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Sure, whatever. I think that it was a good movie, and I think that's the reason why it deserves a 7.5. You said an 8.5?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I would probably give it a 9 if I could look at my score first.
Okay, whatever. You may actually change it if you want later.
So, have you decided what we'll watch next week?
So I had two options. I had actually three options. At the beginning, I was thinking about a Hitchcock movie. Look, I'm not going. Look, I think that is a bit of an overrated director. Sure, you know, but there was like really good stuff on every film that he actually did. Now, the other options were like I was just watching. I checked one that I wanted to check with you from from Cannes that they got a certain regard award like 3-4 years ago. They were like, maybe this could be interesting, but I was like, I don't know if it's going to be like good or not. And the other one was First Cow.
Was what?
First Cow.
Oh, the Kelly Riker film. You know
Yeah.
how much I love her.
I know.
She's
So that's the reason we can actually watch that in a way that is like none of us has watched it before.
All right. Well, to be determined, I guess.
To be determined.
All right.
Alright. Well, this has been it for the Beat My Heart Skip.
Jacques Audiard.
Do you want to say it in French again?
No.
Not
One
again.
time was
That's
enough.
Alright. Well, thank you guys.